Okay, so I must be really bored, stuck in my house, in isolation. So I've come up with a few questions I wanted to answer myself, and so I thought I'd make a video to share some of those questions with you. So the first thing that I wanted to look at was this idea of, is it possible to actually manipulate a virus? So I've obviously studied microbiology as part of my degree. We know it's very difficult to do that, but just wanted to obviously see if it was actually possible to do so. Um, so the answer to the question is yes, you can manipulate a virus. You can do so, and we have been doing so for many years, and we've got the technology out there to actually alter viral genetic structure, and we do that when it comes to creating attenuated live vaccines. So yes, it is possible to do so. So therefore, the second question is, has this coronavirus then actually been manipulated? So obviously, a lot of conspiracy theories out there, and so the scientific community put out this research paper in Nature Research Journal that basically argues that no, it's not been manipulated. That actually, it's likely to have come from bats, maybe, or from an intermediate host. So it's gone from a bat to another animal, and then that's facilitated the transfer to humans. And the animal they're suggesting that it might have gone through some organ bats and then to an animal called a pangolin, which you can see in that picture there. So in this article, it's called The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that we're currently seeing across the world. They basically argue that this is due to natural selection. So a virus has evolved through natural selection. It's evolved a way that it can specifically bind to human receptor cells on human cells. So it's called the ACE2 receptor. That's if you want the science behind it. And they said that it's naturally evolved from either from bats maybe, or from the pangolin, or from some animal. It's natural selection has made that meant that it's evolved this ability to bind to human cells. So the research journal argues that it's not been manipulated, and a number of statements they make. Uh, and whether you've got to sort of argue this, you've got to say, is the evidence actually conclusive? So they're saying, yeah, it's conclusive, it's natural selection, and there are a couple of ways it might have happened. So they said it's improbable that it's emerged through laboratory manipulation. So they're saying it's improbable that's happened, so that laboratories haven't manipulated this. And they've said basically that it could be due to natural selection in an animal host, so it's evolved this ability to bind to humans while it's been in an animal host, or it's evolved this ability to bind to humans when it's actually transferred into humans, and then it's evolved that ability to be so selective to human receptor cells. So they conclude that it's most likely the result of natural selection on a human or human-like ACE2 receptor protein. So they've said it's not the product of purposeful manipulation. So this is the paper that they released to argue back all the conspiracy theories that are out there, basically. So they're saying that it's evolved from two animals due to natural selection. So it may have been that it evolved this ability in a bat. So they're saying that 96% of this virus is identical to the coronavirus that you'd find in bats that are local in that Chinese province. But it didn't have the bat coronavirus didn't have the specific ability to bind to the human ACE2 receptor, so it didn't have that specific ability to bind to a human ACE2 in a bat. So it's got to evolved more than that. And the next one is pangolins. This is a pangolin. Again, they found that pangolins contain a coronavirus that is similar to the virus we're now seeing. But actually, they find the similarities are actually closer in the bat than they are in the pangolin. The only similarity that they're seeing is that the virus in the pangolin does have all 6 key regional binding domains, so receptor binding domains, sorry, which is, if you look at this picture here, I'll show you what a receptor binding domain is. So it's this area here of the protein on the surface of the virus there. So this is a human cell, that's a receptor that's receiving the virus. The receptor binding domain is this area here, and they're saying that there's a similarity between the pangolin coronavirus that they find in the pangolin and the receptor binding domain that they're now seeing in this coronavirus that we're seeing around the world. So they're saying that it's got to have evolved through natural selection, not through manipulation. However, they have to conclude that even though there's lots of similarities in the bats, there's lots of similarities in the pangolin, there's actually no animal coronavirus that has been identified so far that is sufficiently similar to have actually served as the direct progenitor of this virus that we're seeing now. So they don't actually have the evidence to say it definitely was from bats, it definitely was from a pangolin, and they're just saying, all they can say is it has to arise by natural evolutionary processes from an animal of some sort. They said the other option is that actually it might not have come from it might not have evolved this ability when it went in the animals. It was actually, maybe it's evolved this ability through natural selection because actually maybe it's been undetected and it's been going from human to human for ages, and we didn't know about it. And they say in this journal maybe it was undetected and it was going from humans to humans for a long time. We know that it was first detected in China. The first case was detected on November the 17th. We know that China locked down that province and then the whole country on January the 23rd. So quite a bit of a distance between when they first detected it and when they locked it down. So again, that's some of the facts that we know about this virus already. However, this was quite interesting. Basic research involving the passage of the bat COVID virus, the coronavirus, has been going on for many years. So they've been researching this in laboratories right around the world, in biosafety level 2 laboratories around the world for many years. They've already looked at this coronavirus in bats. And there are, and this is a bit scary, there are documented instances of laboratory escapes of SARS-CoV viruses. So they're saying that we still have to examine the possibility that this could have been an inadvertent laboratory release of SARS-CoV-2. So that begs the question, so has this happened before? Has it ever escaped a laboratory before? Has it ever been spread before because it's been leaked out of a laboratory? Answer to that, yes, it did happen before, and it happened in 2004 from a laboratory in Beijing in China. So here we go. So there have been two. If we go back. There have been two self-limiting SARS outbreaks. One in 2002, one in 2004. The 2002 outbreak spread across a number of countries, including the UK, 4 in the UK, and there was a significant outbreak in Toronto, Canada. I'll try and explain the link between Canada and China in a little bit, because there's quite a link between those two countries. In 2002, that outbreak was 8,098 reported cases and 774 deaths. And then this was the next one. The next outbreak was 2004, and there was another smaller outbreak linked to a medical laboratory in China. So the 2004 outbreak was actually linked to it being leaked out of a medical laboratory in Beijing. So it has been leaked out of China before. They were criticised across the world by the news agencies across the world in 2004 because they covered up a lot of the information about the outbreak of SARS. And actually the doctor that whistleblowed on the Chinese government was actually under house arrest in China following his findings. He actually said that doctors and nurses at 2 other military-run institutions told him at least of 7 deaths that occurred in their hospitals, and claimed there were 106 cases of the disease in Beijing, more than 5 times the figure announced by the authorities. So the Chinese have obviously covered up SARS outbreaks previously before. China built a lab to study SARS and Ebola in Wuhan, and at the time, in 2017, when they built it, the US biosafety experts warned that a virus could escape the facility and become a key in fighting the outbreak. So the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory is the only lab in China designated for studying dangerous pathogens like SARS. Ahead of its January 2018 opening, biosafety experts and the scientists from the US expressed concerns that a virus could escape this lab. In 2004, a SARS virus leaked from a lab in Beijing. Experts say the coronavirus that infected more than 800 people mutated in animals, became capable of infecting humans at the Wuhan seafood market. But 2017 article warned of the unpredictability of lab animals that scientists at the Wuhan lab intended to inject with the viruses. So we've got to ask the question, what animals have they actually been testing this on? And have they been testing it on bats? And have they been testing it on these pangolin? Has this been the reason that it's developed this ability to be specific to human cells? This is another news article. Wuhan has deadly pathogen lab linked to Chinese scientists under investigation. So China's only secure laboratory for studying deadly diseases is located in Wuhan, and was the destination of several trips made by Chinese scientists who is under investigation by the Canadian government. Another one. Mystery surrounding the ouster of Chinese researchers from a Canadian laboratory. Canadian researchers are reacting with puzzlement to the news that policy breach has caused the nation's only high containment disease laboratory to bar prominent Chinese Canadian virologist and her husband and a number of students from the facility. This virologist, as you can see, I can't pronounce the name below, is actually linked to creating the Ebola vaccine that treated lots of the cases in West Africa when the Ebola outbreak occurred. So why? It's a bit of a question, isn't it? Why have these two scientists been barred from their own research lab in Canada? And the background to this is basically they feel that maybe they were spies for the Chinese government, and that it was the fact they were sent back to China because they felt they might have been sending samples back to China and putting their research they were doing in Canada and sending that back to Wuhan to the labs back there. So the question then remains, so if this virus was leaked from a laboratory, was it done on purpose? So the couple of questions that sort of made me think about this is a couple of things really. It's currently disproportionate in the countries affecting, so majority of them at the moment are developed countries, rich countries, with high energy demands and technology use. So I talked in my last video about the fact that companies that could be behind this could be linked to oil companies, for example. You would think the poor countries with poor sanitation and more underlying health conditions would be suffering more. If you want some evidence on this, you can use the COVID visualizer, and you can see using the COVID visualizer by clicking on the countries, you can actually go on and you can see the number of cases. So by all means, go through, look at the number of cases in different countries, and look at how many are active currently and how many deceased, how many recovered. So if you want to look at that yourself, you can do so. So I'm going to carry on in a second. Just going to go to the last couple of questions here. So, and then I'll do another video on what my reasoning is behind this. So here we go. So that's one of the things. Obviously, disproportionate. More rich countries are being affected currently than poor countries. So does that lend to the fact this virus could have been specifically designed or altered to do so, or just where it's been released and where it's been spread? The effect on the global economy, obviously the whole global economy is suffering at the moment, but strangely enough, China recovered pretty quickly. Who stands to make the most money in the development of the vaccine? So if the company that develops this vaccine and it's forced vaccine and everyone has to have the vaccine, they're going to make a heck of a lot of money out of this. And then the last one, the response to the Chinese government in enforcing lockdown so efficiently does make me question, did they already have a plan in place for this release? So has this been done on purpose? Now I'm going to go in my next video to explain the theory behind what I think could have happened.